Hello everyone, my name is Freeman. In this video, I will present our SIGCHI paper, Disturbing the Peace, Experiencing and Mitigating Emerging Harassment in Social Virtual Reality on behalf of my co-authors. Harassment has long been a severe social issue due to its serious and negative effects on the target individual's well-being. In the online world, online harassment can happen to any online user on any platform. In particular, online harassment may even be more severe for individuals who are considered marginalized in tech spaces, such as women, LGBTQ individuals, and minorities. Harassment in social VR has become an urgent issue as it may be felt even more immersive and thus destructive due to social VR's unique features. So, what is social VR? In short, social VR refers to 3D virtual spaces where multiple users can interact with one another through VR head-mounted displays, which is different from standalone VR applications or traditional on-screen virtual worlds and online gaming. First, rather than merely looking at avatars on a computer screen, it supports fully or partially body-tracked avatars. This means one's avatar's movements will correspond to the real-time movements of their physical body. Unlike in many online games and virtual worlds, the main communication method in social VR is synchronous voice communication. Social VR can also simulate physical touches such as grabbing, handshake, and hug, and rich nonverbal communication such as body language. In this paper, we focus on new forms of harassment in social VR as new risks. We explore 3 research questions regarding what new forms of online harassment in social VR are, how social VR users, especially marginalized tech users, experience such harassment, and people's strategies and recommendations to manage such harassment. We conducted 30 in-depth semi-structured interviews with diverse social VR users. In total, 17 out of the 13 participants in our study self-identify as individuals who are often considered as marginalized in tech spaces, such as women, LGBTQ individuals, and ethnic minorities. We then conducted in-depth qualitative analysis to analyze the data. Based on our findings, we identified several new characteristics of harassment in social VR. First, simulated physical behaviors aiming to disturb others, such as running around, shouting, and blocking views, could be new forms of harassment in social VR. These behaviors intentionally undermine the overall social atmosphere in social VR by ruining or nearby social VR users' ongoing interactions. They may also evoke particularly destructive consequences for certain users. The predominance of voice chat in social VR may also lead to harassment. Participants mentioned that sometimes they are forced to listen to others' inappropriate jokes, which makes them feel oppressed and thus harassed. Additionally, if one tries to be physically close to another user in social VR without asking for permission, most people would consider it a potential form of harassment because it disrupts the social norm of appropriate physical space. Finally, there is a concern about how children harassing adults may become a new form of harassment in social VR. Our work also shows how users who are often considered marginalized in tech spaces may experience additional challenges of online harassment in social VR. Above all, the combination of full-body tracked avatar and voice chat in social VR makes these users more identifiable, which may lead to racist attacks. It may also lead to hate speech and harassment towards women, as well as the LGBTQ community. In addition, women often feel more vulnerable in social VR because social VR is still perceived as male-dominated. Women cite the unreasonable expectations for traditional gender roles in tech spaces as potential reasons. Some marginalized social VR users also experience higher risks of stalking out of social VR, which they perceive as a severe form of harassment. In general, participants depend on 2 types of strategies to mitigate potential harassment in social VR. The first is to use the specific tools provided by social VR platforms. Another way is to employ some personal techniques, such as avoiding sharing personal information and leaving a word, room, or situation where they might encounter harassment as soon as possible. Our findings inspire us to further reflect upon how we can understand and mitigate new forms of harassment in social VR. We first point to the importance of investigating embodied harassment as an emerging but understudied form of harassment in novel online social spaces. In this context, harassing behaviors are both conducted and experienced through a sense of embodiment about one's virtual body, with a higher awareness of body ownership and more physical and transformative interactive experiences. Though our participants tend to understand harassment in social VR as a simulation of harassing behaviors in the physical world, there seems to be no consensus on whether and to what degree social norms in the physical world should also be applied to social VR. These confusions further complicate why harassment in social VR occurs and how to regulate it. Finally, our findings show that many existing techniques and platform tools to handle harassment in social VR are mainly reactive, which means they are reactions to harassing behaviors that already happened. In this case, damage has already been made. This leads to new questions about how we can develop more proactive approaches to prevent new forms of harassment in social VR from happening. Based on these reflections, we also propose several recommendations for the future design of social VR systems to better combat harassment, including refining the reporting mechanism, providing a more nuanced moderation mechanism, and platform-embedded voice modulators. As social VR is still a novel technology, our proactive approach not only adds to the growing body of literature on social VR, but also contributes to the active prevention of future harassment in nuanced online environments, platforms, and experiences. Thank you for watching. We want to thank our participants and the National Science Foundation for supporting this research.